Do you recall the 2000s when both MMOs and JRPGs were at their peak? We had outstanding games like Star Ocean Till the End of Time, Golden Sun, Final Fantasy X and XII, Skies of Arcadia, Dragon Quest VIII, Vagrant Story, Dark Cloud, Lost Odyssey. Yet despite all of these incredible titles, one game opted to take the JRPG formula and throw it into the trash, providing us a slightly depraved, introverted anti-hero whose sole purpose in life was to bring back the first girlfriend that he ever had. I'm sure many of us are capable of relating to that. Now, I have legitimately been waiting since 2004 to play a sequel to the Shadow Hearts duology. And I'm aware Shadow Hearts from the New World does exist, but the game felt so disconnected from the first two games that I just couldn't really enjoy it as much as either of the first two. It lost its dark, gritty feel and replaced it with a more tame, humorous story. And these types of games do have their place, there's no contesting that. The world of Shadow Hearts, however, is no such place. And much like how Yuri had an undying love for Alice, I want each and every one of our patrons to know you, much like Yuri, possess my undying love and appreciation as well. Also, have you considered following MRSSSTIX and I over on Twitter, because we're on it every day? Now, I'm not overly fond of Kickstarter games. Typically, I feel as though they're mostly scams attempting to take advantage of nostalgia or gullible players that are seeking something that just doesn't exist. False promises led to hundreds of thousands of dollars thrown into the void, never to be seen or heard of again. But we have had success stories like Eiyuden Chronicles, which is the spiritual successor to the Suikoden franchise, which also happens to be one of the franchises that I have poured more hours into than almost any other. We also have Sea of Stars, and more recently, Arn Fantasia and Penny Blood. While Arm Fantasia looks to be an absolutely incredible game with some even better looking characters and perspectives with which to show off those characters, I was never as much into the Wild Arms franchise as I was Shadow Hearts. The Kickstarter had a goal of 100 million yen, converted into a currency that most of us will understand. That's 673,000 US dollars. The Kickstarter, over the course of the month of it being online, went on to raise 379,328,385 yen. Converted, that is 2,553,000 US dollars, almost 4 times their asking price. Evidently, I'm not the only person here that has a strong sense of nostalgia for 2000s JRPGs longing to be fulfilled. Their Kickstarter page lists a small synopsis of both games, but I want to focus on Penny Blood here. Malice and mayhem. Embark on a dark investigation through the iconic Roaring Twenties, amassing allies and confronting traumas in a world twisted by cosmic horror, malice, and mayhem. Circumnavigate the globe from the USA to Europe and Asia, and explore nations either recovering or basking in the wake of one of history's bloodiest conflicts, oblivious to the turmoil that brews beneath the surface. Choose wisely and train your trigger finger with the Psycho Sigil battle system, which pairs classic JRPG turn-based battles with intense real-time action. Penny Blood promises to sink its claws into you as it revives the darker side of Japanese RPGs, with direction from Matsuzo Machida, character design by Miyako Kato, and music and sound composed by Yoshitaka Hirota and Akari Kaida. They do note cosmic horror, malice, and mayhem. Malice has been a recurring force in the Shadow Hearts series, becoming a major plot point in the sequels mentioned by Nikolai when he was with Karen on their search for the holy mistletoe at the beginning of the game, when Yuri releases it by accident within the graveyard, and even Johnny can channel it. Having Malice as a major plot point in the game is a way of connecting it to each of the prequels, while hopefully elaborating on and advancing the system. It looks like, much like in Covenant, you'll also be traversing various regions around the world, the USA, Europe, and Asia. Chasing after Rasputin and Kato took us to some incredible locales, and I cannot wait to see what they do with the game that has the aesthetic potential that this game does. We're then introduced to several of the cast members. Matthew is a detective that utilizes fusion transformation powers, much like Yuri did in the first two games, to hunt down monsters. Interestingly, it states that he wields a sawed-off shotgun, but he's also adept in martial arts, much like Yuri was. He also has the ability to fuse with Berserk, the Dark Knight, I recall Yuri being capable of fusing with many different types of monsters, but if I'm not mistaken, it's been a while after all. Yuri's main fusion was Amon. That's what he engaged Rasputin with after all. Oh, Alicia from Arm Fantasia is actually adorable in that picture. You know what, thankfully I'm going to be playing both games. Amelia, however, is a female Terminator with robotic legs, an arm, and left eye. She also has superhuman strength, which means you won't want to piss her off. Susari is from Japan, meaning that we recruit people from America, Europe, and Asia. Then comes the gameplay. As is evident by what is on screen, Penny Blood is going to feature an overworld map. Something akin to the old Tales of and Final Fantasy JRPGs. This is something that just isn't typical in this day and age, and a welcome, refreshing change. While there is an overworld map, there's also going to be a lot to explore in the field as well, probably being reminiscent to the older Shadow Hearts games. The game is also going to meld both traditional tab target combat with rapid reaction inputs, meaning that if you're slow to react, you're probably going to suck in battle. It wouldn't be a Shadow Hearts game without fusion though. I'm just curious whether Matthew will have access to multiple fusions or the singular berserk. And much like in Shadow Hearts, sanity is going to be very important. SP in Shadow Hearts was a measure of a character's sanity during battle. SP varied per character, but should a character reach 0 during battle, said character would enter a type of berserk status. During the berserk status, characters will behave erratically, dealing increased damage, but at the expense of potentially harming their own party members. I genuinely cannot contain my excitement after seeing how many familiar elements are going to be present in-game. The devs also went on to list some other tidbits about the game, but that was the bulk of what was most important, with key points being listed towards the end of the Kickstarter. The game is going to feature music composed by Yoshitaka Hirota, the man behind the Shadow Hearts series, and Akari Kaida behind the Breath of Fire series. Nobuo Uematsu of Final Fantasy fame has also joined the project, along with many others. Both Armed Fantasia and Penny Blood are going to be absolutely incredible games, but Penny Blood specifically is what I'm most excited for. This game looks absolutely incredible and is going to provide me another glimpse into the Shadow Hearts world. I hope they elaborate on what happened with Alice and Yuri and the rest of the cast, maybe even have a cameo or two. Regardless, both games are going to be releasing onto the PS5, the Xbox Series, and PC. It's unconfirmed whether they'll be 2023, 2024, or 2025 releases, but the latter is definitely more than likely. Now, if you're not into JRPGs, absolutely no problem. I got 2 videos on screen right now that might be of more interest to you. One featuring every MMO releasing this month, and another featuring a game that I think will change the RPG genre next year.